Hey everybody, we're going to be taking a look today at the Promethean board. Um, this is going to be an outstanding device for you to use in your teaching in the classroom. It can do a huge variety of different tasks, and there's lots of uses for it in instruction. We'll go through a lot of the basics today. This is our basic tutorial here about utilizing our Promethean boards. Probably two of the biggest things that you should take away from this instruction is the ability to simply replace your projector and Apple TV with the Promethean board. And we'll show you different ways of connecting your device to the board so you can do just that in a little while. The other basic thing that you should take away from this tutorial is also how to use the whiteboard. Many of you may find that where your Promethean board is installed may be covering your current whiteboard or a portion of it. So utilizing the whiteboard function capability of the Promethean is going to be really important for you to understand how to utilize. So with no further ado, I'll move on to our first section, which is talking about the center console. The center console of the Promethean board is located right down here, almost on like the little shelf where you would keep chalk if this were a chalkboard. Okay, and on there are several buttons, and we'll go through each of those. We'll start with, we've got the power on and off button here. We've got the volume up and volume down buttons. We also have the ability to freeze the screen. Okay, so if you need to get students' attention, you can simply hit the freeze button and whatever is going on the screen will simply freeze and go no further. Besides the ability to freeze, the next one we have is also the ability to turn off the touch capability of the board. So if you're someone like me who likes to talk with their hands and you're worried about messing something up on the screen, you can turn off that touch ability so that then you can do whatever you want on the screen and it's not going to hurt anything. Okay. And then you have your final button here, which is your source button, where if you've got some other peripheral device, such as your laptop or a DVD player that you're connecting to the board, you're going to change the source of where that input is coming from. Very much like when you're using your TV at home and you want to switch from your cable box to your Apple TV or Amazon Fire Stick or whatever other peripheral device like a Blu-ray player that you might want to switch that input to. All right, so that is our center console. Next, we're going to take a look at the remote control. The remote control, very similar to a remote control that you would have, say, for your television, as far as some of the buttons that you're going to see there. Right? For example, we've got a power button here that can turn the device on and off. We also have some directional navigation buttons that are in a circle, so you can go up, down, left, and right, and then you have an enter button in the center. We have the ability to change the volume of the board on either side here. We've got a plus and minus. We do have also the ability with our unified menu. So I can bring up this little menu that's coming up on the screen. There's about 3 or 4 other ways of bringing up that unified menu that we'll be taking a look at in a little while. You also have the ability to change the source once again, so that if you have some other peripheral device that you are connecting to the board, you can change that as well. So while shooting the video, I forgot to talk about the blank screen button that allows you to instantly have nothing visible on the board whatsoever. This is a great tool to use when you need all of your students' attention temporarily so that they can focus on you. And we also have that freeze capability so that whatever is going on the screen, you can freeze in that one screen and then address the students with whatever it is you need for them to pay attention to, and then you can unfreeze and continue on with your instruction. So those are the things that you'll find on the remote. All right, we already mentioned once when looking at the remote control about the unified menu. And I mentioned that there were like 3 or 4 other ways of bringing that unified menu up. So you'll notice that there are 1, 2, 3 little arrows on our board here, so that no matter where you like to stand, you're in quick, easy access to that unified menu, because that's really how you're going to utilize your board and get to just about every setting or every application that you want to use, or how to get to files. So we're going to take a look at what is on this unified menu. Okay, I'm going to start with, you have a back arrow. That back arrow is going to allow you, no matter what you're looking at, to go back a screen from what you were looking at before. Okay, very much like the back button that you'll see in your browser. Next, you have the locker. And the locker is a pretty huge deal, because the locker is how you access applications. It can be how you get to your settings for the device, as well as where you may store some files as well. So when we are looking at the locker here, I can see I've got several apps available to me, and it's very similar to the launcher on a MacBook Air. Okay, so I can have several pages of different apps and items on here. If I want to take a look at files that I have stored on the device, I will simply go to the locker and tap on Files, and that is going to bring up where I have items stored here. Okay, I can have images, videos, audio. What are the most recent things? I've got some internal storage here, and I can access many different folders, as well as create folders for my storage of various items. I can also access my settings. I can click here in Settings, and I can take a look at my connection to the internet. If I have other Bluetooth devices, such as a microphone or speaker that is connected, I can view that there. I can look at some information about various apps. I can also do some changing around about the users of the board, and Jodi's going to show you all about users in a little while. If I want to change the wallpaper to some sort of image on there, so that the desktop screen, I guess you would call it, or the wallpaper there, I can change that as well. All right, and audio information, how much storage I have available, and so forth. So those are my settings. Now, besides having access to your settings and your files that you may have stored here, this is also where you can find apps to use with the board, all just as a standalone device. All right, without even being connected to your laptop, you can use the apps that are built in. So for example, your board will have available to you a spinner app that I am looking at, and I can simply spin it and get a different student randomly selected each time I spin it. You can also do some changing in here so that it only selects an item once and until all of them are selected. You can also have a sound on there as well, probably a lot like Wheel of Fortune kind of sound, tick, 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 as it spins around. Okay, the other thing that we can do with that spinner as well is I believe we can have multiple spinners on here. I think we can have 3 or so. And I can even, should be able to drag them to where I want them to be. All right, if I had to have some need for having 3 different spinners on the board, I can do that. And we could have them all be different types. We could have consonants here. We can have, let's see, vowels here. And then we can have numbers here, all right? And if you were trying to come up with some odd thing, I guess, that involved these 3 different types of things, you could do that kind of, you might even be able to create something, now that I think about it. You could have a character name here, you could have a setting here, and then you could have some sort of plot twist here. And then kids have to then create a story involving those 3 items. Ooh, just came up with a cool little lesson idea. All right, so I am going to close out of these by hitting the little X. And we'll go back to the locker here to see what else there is. You also have a timer available to you as well. All right, and this timer, it can be set up like a stopwatch. It can be a timer that counts down. I think it can even be a clock. Yeah, we can have a clock with the time. We can have a timer, and we can have a stopwatch. And just like we had with the spinner, you could have one of each if you wanted. All right, so here we got a stopwatch. Let's turn that into a timer. And this is this, will turn into a clock. And so here, this is the utilization of the timer app. Okay, we'll get rid of those things. All right, then we also have, very important to us, our whiteboard capability. I'm going to show you that in a little bit later. We have a gallery where we can hold pictures that we download from the internet. We have a music player here. But one of the best things that we have here is we have our own browser. And it's based off of Chrome, and it's called Chromium. And so by utilizing the browser through directly onto the board, we have it as a standalone device. We can basically we can use Chromium as a browser and not even have to worry about our laptop. So we could be showing students something up here on the board, but yet over at our desk on our laptop, we could be in Infinite Campus or in Google Drive or Google Classroom doing other work while students are able to focus on what's up on the board. That's just one of the nice features of having a built-in web browser. All right, so if I want to utilize this browser, I might do a search for something in here. So I'm going to type up here in the address field. Up pops this keyboard. And I see this little hand here. So if I take my finger and drag this over, I can put the keyboard where I want it to be. So if I have, let's see, Tower of Pisa, hit return, all right, and I want to see images of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, all right, I can get to them. Let's take a look at another feature here, is that ability, we can make this a full screen for our browser here. I've got these little arrows that are either pointing in, or if I want to make it full screen, they are pointing out. And so here I find a picture that I like, and let's say I like this picture here. Okay, now with this, I've got this picture, and if I would like to have this picture myself to use later on, or maybe I want to bring this picture into the whiteboard, I'm going to use one of the items that is up here on my unified menu, and that is the capture tool. I'm going to tap capture, and what it does is it shows me my image much smaller, and I have these little handles here. And I'm going to take the handles and drag them in so that I'm getting just the picture that I want. And then I am going to tap done. And then I'm going to tell it to open in whiteboard. All right, so we're getting a couple birds with one stone here. So we just looked at the browser that is in the locker, and then we used the capture tool to get the picture, and now we're utilizing that picture in whiteboard. And you have to imagine that this whiteboard is kind of like an infinite white piece of paper, because you're going to be able to take a lot of notes, put in pictures, you can put in links to things. There's lots of different tools you can do with the whiteboard, but then you can also kind of shrink it all down and move it over and then add some more content. And all of this stuff that you're putting into the whiteboard, you can save it as a PDF that you can send to students and that they can open up using Preview at a later time. All right, so here's my picture of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And I can take my fingers and I can make it smaller, make it larger. I can spin it around. All right, I can also just take the whole thing and move it wherever I want it. And then if I want to take some more notes over here, I can do that. But let's take a look at some of these tools over here as far as what we have available to us in the whiteboard. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to want to know right away is how can we annotate this picture. So if I wanted to write on it, I've got a pen here. I've got some colors to choose from. I also, if I tap it twice, I have some thicknesses available to me as well. So if I want to draw this line here and then draw this line here, all right, so I've got that available to me. I can do some writing as well. So, and I'm just doing this with my finger. All right. Another kind of cool tool that we have down here is we have some math tools available to us. If I wanted to know what that angle is there, oops, undo. Let's see, let's move this around. And okay, if I bring out the protractor here, okay, I'm going to be able to measure what is that angle. So I'm going to go right here on the horizon there, and I can see that this is basically a 79-degree angle, all right, that I have from there to there, all right? So I can even 79 degrees, all right? So once again, this is my whiteboard tool. I've got lots of different tools I can do for taking notes. I can move things over. I've got a little guide over here on the side about the size of my board. And when I am done with my notes, I can go up to the little disc up here on the left and I can save this whiteboard here. All right, so if I want to do so, I can, let's see, give it a name. I can check that off. And now I have saved this in with my other whiteboard items. All right, we're taking a look at the annotate tool now. The annotate tool is meant for some temporary annotations that you would be doing with students. You're not necessarily going to save those annotations. It's really pretty much for just kind of pointing things out to them that you want them to take note of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the browser and we'll take a look at how the annotate tool works. All right. So I'm going to go to my unified menu and I'm going to go to the locker and we'll open up Chromium. So here I am, I'm on a website about about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I just happened to Google it and I want to point some things out to the students. All right, so if I bring up that unified menu again, and then this time tap the annotate tool, you'll see some tools here on the side. All right, so I have a marker or a pen, and I've got some different colors, and I have an eraser, and I can redo and undo various steps that I take. So if I want to point out to students where is the URL field here, so I've got my pen, and I tap that again, and I can get various thicknesses. I can change the color. I'm going to keep the red though. And so like, oh, this is where the URL is for this web page. If I want to point out, oh, where do I go to download something here? I can circle here. All right, I may want to point out that, oh, this is kind of a neat website name, treehugger.com. All right, so I am pointing things out to students here. All right, maybe it could be something that we're looking at a sentence here, and I want you to circle all of the nouns with red and underline the verbs with green and that kind of use for the various colors. But as soon as I hit this little X right here, all of those annotations and the tools go away. Okay, now if I wanted to keep them though, I would probably go to annotate. I would put my annotations in and kind of point this out right here. And if I wanted to keep a copy of that, then I would do the unified menu and tap capture. And this brings up the ability to keep this image here with my annotations there and then bring it into the whiteboard. Okay, so here we are, we're in the whiteboard now. And I've got this picture here with my annotations in it. So annotations is meant to be temporary, but if you want to save them somehow, then use the capture tool and then bring that image into your whiteboard and save it for another time. One of the items we really haven't spent a lot of time on the unified menu is called recent apps. Now, when you're on an iPhone, for example, and you want to go back to a particular app that you are working on, you may be using the type of phone where you have your home button and you hit it twice and it brings up little thumbnails of each of the apps you have going and you scroll through and tap on the one you want to go back to. Okay? Well, we have something similar here on the Promethean board. If I go to recent apps that's at the end of my unified menu, it shows me little thumbnails of whatever applications I am currently using or have used recently. And if I want to quit using them so that nothing pops up here, I can simply hit the little X that's in the lower right-hand corner. The other possibility is maybe I want to go back to that other application. So I'm in Whiteboard right now, and I want to go back to Chromium, and here it is. All right. So recent apps can be a useful tool for either turning off applications that you're done with or to switch from application to application without always having to go to the home button or go to the locker and then finding that app. If it's already open, you can get to it through recent apps fairly quickly. One of the things I didn't mention earlier when I was talking about the locker is the Promethean store. The Promethean store is a lot like the App Store that you see on an iPhone or even on a MacBook Air. All right, so in the locker right here, I've got Promethean store, and it's going to bring up a page that has various applications that I can install directly onto the board itself. All right, nothing to download onto my laptop anywhere else, but I can simply install them right to the device. So if I want to look at things that are featured, I can do that. All right, and we'll see various types of applications that are featured here. All right, and if I want one of them, I simply have to click them or tap them, and then I click or tap the install button. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, this is not. All right, so we'll go through and we grant access so that this can download, and says, do you want to install this application? It doesn't require special access, so I tap install. It takes a moment or two to install. But what we'll find is that when we go back to the locker, we're going to have a little icon there for Kahoot so that we can get in there directly. So I'm going to tap open here. And next. All right, and so then I would go through this, and one of the things I hadn't mentioned until now really are some of these controls for viewing an application when we're on the board here. Right? So for example, I do have the ability to split the screen in half and have one application on one side and another application on the other. In order for that to work, I have to make sure that the windows for each application are minimized, or at least, not showing full screen. So right now, this Kahoot screen is in full screen mode. So I'm going to tap the little button that has the arrows pointing to one another so that it makes it smaller. And then I'm going to have it be here on, I've got it so that it's over here on the side. All right, and then if I go to recent items or recent apps, and I go to my Chromium here, all right, I want to do the same thing. It's smaller, and I can change, which side I want that to be on. Do I want that to be on the right? Do I want that to be on the left? And so I can have multiple, or two apps, I should say, side by side, so that if I need to see one screen in order to do something on the other, I can do that. So I have some control there. If I want to stop seeing that app or that screen altogether, I simply hit the X and it's going to go away. Okay? So we have taken a look at annotate and source. Like if I have a computer plugged in, I would be able to change the source of where the input is coming. If I want to go back home, obviously that's going to take us back to this main screen here that's all blank but shows the date and time. We've used our whiteboard. we've done annotate and capture. So Jodi's going to come up and she's going to take you through the owner as well as the screen share capabilities of the Promethean board.
Hi everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the users piece that Ryan mentioned. It's part of the unified menu. You can get to it from any of the menus here, and it's called owner under that user menu here. And what we will see here is that it's giving you some options of settings, lock, and cloud. For setting, it's going to give you a list of users. It's you and then any new user that you want to add, and then any guests that you want to add as well. Now, the reason for this is so that you could set up your user profile the way you want it to, and then you could add a password to secure it so that if you're using it with your Google Drive and you have special documents on it you don't want anyone to see or touch or mess with, you can set it up with you as the owner and a password. That way, anyone else who comes into the room, whether it's students or staff, will not see your material unless you're in the room. The other thing you could do is if you have a substitute who comes in and wants to use it, you would have a separate profile for substitutes, and that would open it up but still not be getting into your files. The last piece you might see is a lot of people use it for students. They have a student profile, and that students can come in and use it at any time and touch it without worrying about getting into your files. So it's just an added security piece, just like you log into your laptop so no one else can get into it. If you wanted to have a login for this device, you could. Now, you don't have to do that. You could just keep it clean and without any password. That's fine as well. It's just a matter of how comfortable you are with that. And also, if you know you're going to be in the room when anyone's using it, including the students, then you don't have to worry about it. You can go up to 10 users on this device, and then you can also enable a password protection to it, like this. If I close out here, and I go back into owner, and on this little icon where it says lock, for device security right now, it says we have no screen lock at all. We just click on that. And we can have none at the moment, or we could enter a PIN number. A PIN number must be at least 4 digits, but can go up to, I believe, 14 digits. So you could make it as secure as you need it to be. The keyboard is right down here to set that. Okay? Now again, this is optional if you want to set it or not. So it's just one more feature and device to keep your device protected if you want to, or keep it as open as you need to because it's more easier to have it work that way. The next step we're going to show is how to connect your laptop to this device, because one of the main features of this, besides all the wonderful things that Ryan showed you, is that it does project your laptop, just like your projector does, with a much cleaner picture, better sound, and a nicer connection, and then it adds a touch feature to everything that you do. So we have 2 cords for that. You can do it wired, and that's the first we're going to show you. You can also do it wireless. I will show you that next. So for wired, we're going to use the USB, and that's going to give us touch. Then we're going to connect the HDMI with a dongle for the MacBook Air. You would not use the dongle if you have a Chromebook. All right, so you would just use one or the other, and you plug it in. So this is going to give us picture and sound. Now you'll notice when you first do it that I do not have any sort of picture up here. So what I do want to do is one more step. If you go to the unified menu, and Ryan mentioned the source button, here you're going to pick HDMI. That's going to bring the source from the laptop to the screen here, just like an old DVD player where you had to choose. what source you wanted, a DVD player, your VHS, and so on and so on. It takes a minute, and then it brings up your screen. All right. Now I can then open up apps using my keyboard and my mouse, and I have everything I want here. That anything that is on my laptop shows here. This also works with extended devices. So if you have an Elmo or document camera, or if you have a tablet that you use with your laptop normally, you could plug those into your laptop, and then they will also show on screen. If you have a DVD player that's external drive, you could do that. Though you can also run them from the Promethean because it has many, many ports along the side as well. Those are all options to you. There's many ways to do many different things with the Promethean. So you noticed I had done all my driving from here on my laptop. I can open it up wider. I have everything here, but at the very same time, if I want, since I've plugged the touch in, I can also open up different apps using touch. All right, so that's available as well. If we wanted to go to the cooking channel and talk to some of the students about cooking or a recipe that we were going to show them on YouTube, we could do that here as well. So you have touch here, but you also have control of your laptop. It gives you both. That's one of the very nice features about it, for sure. So I'll go back here and close out. So that's how to connect wired. The next step is to connect wirelessly if you would prefer it. Though I will say wired works best if you're using video or anything that has a lot of sound, anything with a lot of, I would guess, a lot of memory that it's going to take up, and you really don't want to depend always on your Wi-Fi to have it glitch. So you really want to make sure you're wired if it's anything that's got video or sound. Otherwise, it can be either or. All right. So if I unplug that, and we can just go back home. I use the home button a lot just because it gets me right back where I want to be, to a screen, and then I can jump to something else. The next thing we're going to do is connecting wirelessly, and that would be with Screen Share. Screen Share is the app specific to the Promethean board. You need to have Screen Share downloaded on your laptop, and you need to have Screen Share up here on the Promethean. They have to be in both places for this to work. So Screen Share is one of the buttons I can show you on any part of the unified menu. We're going to bring that up for a minute, and then I'm going to bring up the Screen Share app on my laptop as well. Screen Share will be available to you to download if you haven't already done so. There's a website to go to from Promethean, and then they are also planning from the district office to have it available in your self-service. So that's where you would find this app. So it's going to give you just a very nice panel ID number. And just very much like an Apple TV, if you've ever used one, you type in that number on your little screen here on the laptop. You can also change this panel ID if you want to refresh that number and get a new number each class, especially if you have different students coming in and you don't want the students from last class, especially like in the middle school, trying to type it in. Or if you're in music class, you see a lot of different students all the time. You can keep changing that panel ID so they don't have it memorized. All right. So I'm just going to type that in. It's going to ask you for your name as well. And then you do want to enable touchback if you have a MacBook Air. Now, touchback with Screen Share doesn't work with the Chromebooks. I just wanted to let you know that. But it does happen with the MacBook Airs. So you do want to enable it if you have it. And then say enter waiting room. And here it's showing you, yes, I have one person in the waiting room. This is the part that always makes me forget this little piece. There is just this little group of people. If you tap on it, then suddenly you've got the list of everyone who's waiting in your waiting room, and it can be up to 30 people. So all your students could be logged in, and then you could look at each of one of their students' screens one at a time and share them, okay? It also gives you the option to show 4 at once if you wanted to do that as well, and that's another option. Students who are working from home remotely can also type this code in and share their screen. So that's another feature that's super helpful, especially during COVID. So we have my name up here at the moment. I'm the only one to share, but we can just click on it and say share. And my screen is going to ask for a password. Sometimes you'll get that message depending on your security settings. So I just type in my password to say, yes, I do want to share. And it's going to take a minute to come up. And there it is. So now I am completely wireless. I'm not connected anywhere. I can go all the way in the back of the room if I need to while students come up. And like you leave your bubble, they can go into your bubble and so on. But you're still working wirelessly. So that's a very nice feature. And I've enabled touch in this case. So I would be able to open a website if I need to. It takes a minute. There's a slight delay. But then it talks about different tech tools. You can go to the web from here because I opened up a web page and so on. So everything that's on my laptop is now on here, and it's all wireless. It's a really good feature that we like a lot. A lot of teachers prefer wireless because they like the ability to move around more freely. But we also have teachers who really prefer wired because they're heavy users of the video and sound, and they like the quality of the wired. So it's either whatever you prefer. And that's all I have.